June 28, 1914, a date that would rewrite the destiny of the world. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, had just survived a bomb attack. He should have left. But a simple communication error led his driver to take a fatal wrong turn right into the path of history. The car stalled directly in front of a small deli where a 19-year-old revolutionary was waiting. His name was Gavrilo Princip, and he didn't even know he was about to start a world war. 2 shots. That's all it took to trigger a domino effect of alliances that would claim 16 million lives. This is the story of the man who accidentally started World War I and the sandwich that changed everything. By 1914, Europe was a powder keg, and the Balkans were the fuse. Centuries of imperial tension were about to boil over. At the center was the Austro-Hungarian Empire, a massive, decaying patchwork of nationalities held together by the aging Emperor Franz Joseph. When Austria formally annexed Bosnia in 1908, it wasn't just a border change, it was a direct insult to a rising neighbor, Serbia. Serbia dreamed of a greater Serbia, a homeland for all South Slavs. To them, Austria wasn't a neighbor, it was an occupier. 2 brutal Balkan wars had already redrawn the map, leaving the region battle-hardened and radicalized. Behind every move was a web of secret alliances. If one country tripped, the entire continent would be dragged into the abyss. All that was missing was a spark, and in the summer of 1914, that spark was heading straight for Sarajevo. To understand the shots fired in Sarajevo, we must first look into the shadows of Belgrade, into a secret society known as the Black Hand. Founded in 1911, their official name was Unification or Death. Their rituals were as macabre as their mission. New members swore a sacred oath before a dagger and a cross, vowing to take the society's secrets to their grave. At the center of this web was Colonel Dragutin Dimitrijević, codenamed Apis, the head of Serbian military intelligence. Apis was no stranger to violence. He had already orchestrated the brutal 1903 coup that replaced the Serbian royal family. In the spring of 1914, he found his instruments. 3 young Bosnian students living in exile in Belgrade. Gavrilo Princip was just 19, frail, tuberculosis-stricken, but fueled by a burning revolutionary fervor. In the secluded paths of Kalemegdan Park, they read the news that would change their lives. The Archduke was coming to Sarajevo. Logistics were handled by Major Vojislav Tankosić, a legendary guerrilla leader and founding member of the Black Hand. In the Topčider forest, away from the eyes of spies, the students began their transformation into assassins. They learned to handle the Browning semi-automatic pistols, weapons provided by the Serbian military arsenal. They were given heavy Kragujevac hand grenades, each with a tricky 12-second delay fuse, and they were given cyanide capsules. The pact was clear. There were to be no survivors to tell the tale. On May 28th, the trio left Belgrade, disguised as simple students returning home for the summer. They reached the Drina River, the natural border that separated them from their homeland and their target. Under the cover of night, they were smuggled across Isaković Island by a network of sympathetic border guards. Once in Bosnia, they were handed off to a secret tunnel of peasants and local agents. They moved through safe houses, their weapons hidden in sugar crates and delivered by loyal supporters. By early June, the Belgrade trio had reached Sarajevo, vanishing into the city's complex landscape. There, they met Danilo Ilić, the local coordinator who would recruit the final 3 members of the cell. 6 assassins were now in position along the Apel Quay, armed and ready for the Archduke's arrival. Warnings were sent, and the Serbian government tried to stop them, but the Black Hand's web was already too strong. The stage was set for a tragedy that would claim millions. The countdown to the Great War had begun. 10 o'clock a.m. Sarajevo. The morning sun was bright, and the streets were packed with spectators waiting for the imperial motorcade. 6 cars moved slowly along the river. In the third sat the Archduke and his wife Sophie, unaware that they were being watched. Nedeljko Čabrinović was the first to act, a 19-year-old typesetter with a bomb hidden in his coat and a suicide pact in his heart. As the car approached the Chumuria Bridge, Čabrinović struck his grenade against a post and hurled it directly at the Archduke. But the Archduke saw it. He reportedly deflected the object with his arm, and it bounced off the folded leather top of the car. The bomb had a 10-second delay. By the time it detonated, the Archduke was gone. It exploded directly under the following car. The blast disabled the vehicle and injured nearly 20 people, including the Archduke's aide-de-camp, Colonel Marizzi. Incredibly, Ferdinand ordered his driver to stop. He wanted to personally check on the wounded before continuing his visit. "The fellow is insane," he remarked. "Let us proceed with our program." And with that, the motorcade raced toward the town hall. Meanwhile, Chebrinovich was desperate to follow the rules of the Black Hand. He swallowed his cyanide and jumped into the river. But the poison was old. It only made him vomit, and the Miljacka River during a summer drought was only 4 inches deep. Instead of a martyr's death, he landed in the mud and was nearly beaten to death by an angry mob before the police dragged him out. Minutes later, the Archduke arrived at the town hall in a state of high agitation, his uniform splattered with the blood of his staff. The mayor, unaware of the chaos, began reading a prepared speech about the city's hearts being full of happiness to see him. Ferdinand snapped. "Mr. Mayor, one comes here for a visit and is received by bombs. It is outrageous." There was a tense silence. Only a quiet whisper from Sophie calmed him down. "Now you may go on," he told the mayor. But the day's plans were shattered. Concerned for Colonel Marissi, the Archduke insisted on a detour to the hospital. General Pocherek agreed, but in the chaos, the new route was never clearly communicated to the lead drivers. At 10:45 a.m., they got back into the car. This would be the last photograph ever taken of them alive. The motorcade headed back along the river, but as they reached the Latin Bridge, the lead car took a sudden, unplanned turn. They were turning right onto Franz Joseph Street. They were heading directly away from the hospital and into a trap. "What is this?" Pocherek shouted. "This is the wrong way. We should go back along the quay." The driver slammed on the brakes. He tried to shift into reverse, but the heavy Greff and Stift car stalled. It stopped directly in front of Schiller's Deli, and standing right there, just 5 feet away, was Gavrilo Princip. Fate is a strange thing. One wrong turn, one stalled engine, and the 20th century was born. The driver tried to reverse, but the heavy gears jammed. The motorcade came to a dead halt right in front of Schiller's Delicatessen. This was the exact spot where history would break. And standing on this corner was a man with a pistol. You may have heard that Gavrilo Princip was only there because he had stopped to buy a sandwich. But there is no historical record of a sandwich. Princip was there because he was a persistent assassin waiting for a second chance. And there he was, standing just 5 feet away from the heir to the throne, the man he had failed to kill an hour ago. Princip didn't hesitate. He stepped onto the running board of the car and drew his weapon. He fired twice, 2 shots that would echo through history for the next 4 years. The first bullet struck the Archduke in the neck. The second hit his wife, Sophie, in the abdomen. At first, the entourage thought they had only fainted from the shock, but as the car sped away, the horror became clear. Sophie collapsed onto her husband's lap. The Archduke, despite his own wound, reached out to her. His last words were a desperate plea. "Sophie, Sophie, don't die. Stay alive for our children." When asked if he was in pain, he whispered, "Es ist nichts." "It is nothing," before losing consciousness. In the chaos, Princip tried to turn the gun on himself, then tried to swallow his cyanide, but the crowd swarmed him. He was nearly beaten to death on that street corner before the police managed to drag him away. By the time they reached the hospital, it was too late. Both were dead within the hour. The era of peace was over. Today, that uniform sits in a Vienna museum, the dark brown bloodstain still visible over a century later. The car, still bearing a bullet hole in its door, remains a macabre monument to the day the old world died. The trigger had been pulled. 1 man, 2 shots, and a web of alliances that would drag the world into the abyss. This is the story of the man who accidentally started World War I, and a wrong turn that changed everything. July 23, 1914. Austria-Hungary issues a demand so harsh that Serbia's rejection was a certainty, a violation of sovereignty designed to trigger a war. The clock was ticking. Serbia was given just 48 hours to comply with demands that would effectively end their existence as a sovereign nation. Serbia issued a conciliatory reply, accepting almost every demand except the one that would end their independence. It wasn't enough for Vienna. Behind Austria stood Germany. Kaiser Wilhelm II had given them a blank check, unconditional support for any action they chose to take. But Serbia was not alone. Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, driven by pan-Slavic solidarity and national pride, could not stand by and watch his ally fall. On July 30th, the Tsar signed the order for general mobilization. The Russian steamroller was beginning to move, and there was no turning back. The 2 cousins, Willie and Nicky, exchanged desperate telegrams, trying to stop the machinery of war, but they were no longer in control. France, bound by treaty to Russia, began its own mobilization. Thousands of men boarded trains, leaving behind their lives for the front lines. August 1st, Germany views Russian mobilization as an act of war. They declare war on Russia and demand to know France's intentions. The plan was already in motion. Knock France out quickly by sweeping through neutral Belgium. A gamble that would change everything. Germany ignored the warnings. Their troops crossed the Belgian border, violating a treaty that had kept the peace for 70 years. On August 2nd, Germany issued an ultimatum to neutral Belgium, demanding free passage for its armies. The peaceful nation was now at the heart of the storm. King Albert of Belgium refused the German demands. "Belgium is a country," he declared, "not a road." The invasion had begun. Britain, the protector of Belgian neutrality, could not stay silent. On August 4th, the British Empire declared war on Germany. In London and Paris, crowds cheered in the streets. They thought it would be a short war. They thought they would be home by Christmas. In London, the British cabinet was divided, but the violation of Belgian neutrality was the final straw. The ultimatum was sent. But in the halls of power, the mood was different. "The lamps are going out all over Europe," remarked Sir Edward Grey. "We shall not see them lit again in our lifetime." The dominoes had fallen. The Great War had begun. An entire generation was about to be lost in the trenches. While the history books show cheering crowds, for many, the news was met with a deep, silent apprehension of what was to come. History is often written in the ink of pure chance. A wrong turn on a summer morning changed the trajectory of the entire world. Ironically, Ferdinand was a moderate who favored Slavic autonomy. His death removed the one voice that might have held back the hardliners. The man who wanted to reform the empire became the catalyst for its total destruction and the end of 3 others. 5 years to the day after the assassination, on June 28, 1919, the world gathered to sign the Treaty of Versailles. It was supposed to be the peace to end all wars, but instead, it sowed the seeds for an even greater catastrophe. Humiliating reparations and the war guilt clause left Germany broken, eventually paving the way for the rise of the next global conflict. Marshal Foch of France was prophetic when he said, "This is not peace, it is an armistice for 20 years. He was right. But the immediate cost was staggering. Over 16 million lives were lost. An entire generation vanished in the mud of the trenches. Today, Europe is dotted with these silent cities, monuments to the scale of the tragedy that began with 2 shots in Sarajevo. In places like Douaumont, the bones of 130,000 unidentified soldiers lie together, forever entwined by the war. Names from every nation are etched side by side, a reminder that the Great War took from everyone, regardless of rank or flag. Even the cemeteries tell different stories, some white and hopeful, others dark, somber, and filled with a heavy granite silence. For many families, there was no grave to visit, only a name on a wall or a stone for a soldier known only to God. The scars on the landscape have healed, but the scars on the human soul lasted for decades. This was the end of innocence. In Sarajevo, the memory of that day remains a flashpoint. To some, Princip was a murderer, to others, a liberator. The footprints he left behind have been removed and restored multiple times, following the shifting political winds of the region. He remains a hero to many Serbs, a symbol of resistance against imperial rule, while the rest of the world sees only the triggerman of a global war. The map of the Middle East, the rise of America, the birth of the League of Nations, all were born from the ashes of 1914. Above all, it left a scar of disillusionment. The old world was gone and nothing would ever be the same again. The lamps that went out in 1914 were never truly lit again. The world had entered an era of total war. Everything rested on a single wrong turn, a car that stalled at just the right moment in just the right place. This was the story of the man who accidentally started World War I and a world that was all too ready to fall. A century later, the echoes of those 2 shots can still be heard. Thank you for watching.